In this video, which I should probably call The Internet Never Forgets, I'm going to be reacting in real time to an article from last year, just after Tesla unveiled their plans to develop and design and then mass produce a useful humanoid robot. The title of this article, of course, Elon Musk has no idea, that won't age well, what he's doing with Tesla Bot. Humanoid robots are way harder than Musk seems to think. The irony of implying that Musk hasn't thought hard enough about something when you're the author of an article entitled Elon Musk has no idea what he's doing with the Tesla Bot. The reason I'm winding back the clock approximately 1 year is just so we can see at the time, after Tesla initially unveiled plans for a humanoid robot, what were some of the so-called experts saying at the time. We've now seen an update approximately 1 year later. We can see how much progress has been made, so it'll be fun to wind the clock back and see what was said, what's happened since, and of course, just so in 10, 15, 20 years time, I can clip this video and point and say, well, we now know how things turned out. And before we get into this video, don't forget there is a ton of exclusive content dropping on Patreon, more than I can keep up with now. We're almost at 108 exclusive videos and counting, so if you're not already a member, join the growing community with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. First of all, who is the author of this article? Evan Ackerman is a senior editor at IEEE Spectrum. Since 2007, he has written over 6,000 articles on robotics and technology. He has a degree in Martian geology and is excellent at playing bagpipes. So at first glance, it appears that Evan, at least on paper, in terms of having opinions about robotics, is a quote-unquote expert. So let's see what this expert has to say. Remember the historical context, this article written the day after Tesla's very first AI Day, not the most recent. Yesterday, at the end of Tesla's AI Day, Elon Musk introduced a concept for Tesla Bot, a 125-pound, 5'8" tall, electromechanically actuated, autonomous, bipedal, general-purpose humanoid robot. Now, I'm not sure if this Spectrum IEEE is a robotics specialist sort of industry publication. If so, that word salad is probably justified. Otherwise, could have just called it a humanoid robot, bro. By concept, I mean that Musk showed some illustrations and talked about his vision for the robot, which struck me as, let's say, somewhat naive. Oh, the irony. Based on the content of a 6-minute long presentation, it seems as though Musk believes that someone, Tesla suddenly, oh boy, this will not age well, should just go out and make an autonomous humanoid robot already. Like, the technology exists, so why not do it? To be fair, Musk did go out and do more or less much exactly that for electric cars and reusable rockets. I just love this. At least the author has the awareness to admit, well, to be fair, Elon has done some impossible shit before. But of course, this time is different because I'm a robotics expert who's written over 6,000 articles since 2007 or 2008. And therefore, despite this track record of astonishing, impossible accomplishments, this impossible accomplishment will never happen. But humanoid robots are much different and much more complicated. With rockets, well, we already had rockets. And with electric cars, we already had cars, batteries, sensors, and the DARPA competitions to build on. I don't say this to minimize what Musk has done with SpaceX and Tesla, but rather to emphasize that humanoid robotics is a very different challenge. Now, this is true. A humanoid robot is very different to an electric vehicle. Not as different as some might think, but fairly different, just as an electric vehicle is very different to a rocket. Now, let's talk about the logic or lack thereof in this supposed argument. The argument is, well, reusable rockets, electric vehicles, that's really different to a humanoid robot. True, but electric vehicles are also equally as different to a rocket as the robot is to an electric vehicle or a rocket, right? So the argument that doing something different will be close to impossible because it's so different doesn't really hold much water, given the fact that this is a dude who's completely disrupted two completely different industries with two completely different technologies. Just saying. Of course, it's actually a relatively similar challenge if you really pull back a little bit. Why? It's just engineering, right? It's all engineering. It's a different flavor. Unlike rockets or cars, humanoid robots aren't an existing technology that needs an ambitious vision plus a team of clever people plus sustained financial investments. I'm kind of struggling a little bit to understand where this argument's going. We do have humanoid robots, clumsy, clunky, and new technology, but they exist. We've seen bipedal motion in a humanoid form, which would be a humanoid robot that's already an existing technology, right? Tesla's just looking to move this forward, a quantum leap, admittedly. But this isn't literally inventing something from scratch, like the author seems to suggest. I mean, yes, we had rockets, but we didn't have reliable, reusable rockets. And yes, we had vehicles, but electric vehicles are almost entirely different technology to an existing vehicle, just a similar form factor. The same is true of humanoid robots. So far, these arguments aren't really making a whole lot of sense. It's like the author's trying to have his cake and eat it too. Whoa, there's no existing humanoid robots, so it's not going to be that easy. But of course, there was existing rockets and cars already existed, so that was easy. With humanoid robotics, there are many more problems to solve. The problems are harder, and we're much farther away from practical solutions. While this may be true, I'm not going to comment on that. I just want to point out something in this very sentence. We're much farther away from practical solutions. Now, if that's true, if we're very far away from practical solutions, would that not be a gigantic opportunity? Remember back in 2006, Tesla's original Roadster? No, probably not. Most of you weren't following the company back then. At that point in time, and 5, 6, 7 years later, people were laughing at the fact that Tesla was attempting to use laptop batteries in a vehicle. It's never going to work. We're so far away from a solution. They don't have enough range. I know this is crazy, but every technological solution, everything that's ever done, created, and developed was once a solution that was very far from being practical. You have to start very far from being practical before you eventually get to practical. This is a huge opportunity. It's as if the author seems to believe that Musk and Tesla are unaware of the enormous amount of work required to actually pull this thing off. Lots of very smart people have been actively working on these things for decades. When was the first electric vehicle? Someone remind me, when was the first electric vehicle? Now that's what about when was the first rocket? Good point. And there's still a laundry list of fundamental breakthroughs in hardware and especially software that are probably necessary to make Musk's vision happen. Now, I actually disagree. There aren't really any fundamental breakthroughs that need to occur in hardware or software, just continued evolution and continuance on the same paths. We already have actuators. We already have lithium-ion batteries. We already have the electronics, okay? Sure, there can be some major improvement, but there are no real breakthroughs necessary here, just continued iteration, in my opinion. Same is true of software. The breakthrough was solving vision. Tesla has done that. Of course, it's not perfect, but they're most of the way there. As I've said, this is the foundational building block for a humanoid robot and ultimately what will become artificial general intelligence. Prior to 2012, give or take, ImageNet, image categorization, huge breakthroughs. One could reasonably have said a major breakthrough would be necessary before we could have cars that are self-driving or even close to it. But we've since had that breakthrough. And as far as robotics go, honestly guys, we've already got a brain. It's not a super capable brain yet, but we've already built the foundation of the brain. This is the breakthrough that was necessary, and this is now why Tesla is pursuing a humanoid robot, because the breakthrough has happened. And again, let's not talk about any breakthroughs with being successful with rocket reusability, like figuring out how to land the motherfuckers, and then that was a breakthrough. Let's ignore the breakthroughs necessary in terms of EVs, energy density, new battery form factor, and so on. Are these fundamental breakthroughs impossible for Tesla? Not impossible, no. But from listening to what Elon Musk said today, oh, the irony. I don't think he has any idea what getting humanoid robots to do useful stuff actually involves. Let's talk about why. Let me know in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. Is this a reasonable supposition that Elon Musk doesn't have any idea what getting humanoid robots to do useful stuff actually involves? Or is it possible this author thinks I'm pretty smart, I'm almost as smart as Elon, and I don't think he knows what he's doing? My conjecture, my belief, my hypothesis is that Elon actually does know how difficult this problem, and that's exactly the why Tesla is now going after it, because it's such a difficult and important problem. Oh, and spoiler alert, let me sum things up real simple for you guys and girls. You know what actually getting humanoid robots to do useful stuff involves? A big brain. That's it. Now, you could argue, of course, they obviously need a body, they need to be able to manipulate objects, but guess what? Dexterous manipulation of objects, movement throughout the real world, all goes back to a big fucking brain. Let's talk about why. I'm not going to bother playing this presentation. The author's going to go through everything Musk spoke about anyway, and most of you will have seen the original presentation from last year. Okay, here we go. Quote, "Our cars are semi-sentient robots on wheels." The author writes, "I don't even know what that means. Semi-sentient? Sure, whatever. A cockroach is semi-sentient, I guess. Although the implicit suggestion that these are robots and are therefore somehow part of the way towards actual sentience is ridiculous." Now, this may in fact be the single most idiotic thing I've read in a long time. Makes me wonder if the author is at all sentient. I think semi-sentient is a perfectly accurate descriptor of Tesla's vehicles. Besides, autonomous cars live in a highly constrained action space within a semi-constrained environment, and Tesla cars in particular have plenty of well-known issues with their autonomy. Can you smell the FUD? Now, in fairness, Tesla vehicles do interact in a very constrained environment. They basically only have 2 dimensions of movement, whereas a robot's moving through the world in 3D. They're not confined to forward, back, left, and right. Here's something that maybe the author will address later on, but it's possible they've overlooked something painfully obvious and extremely important here. You may not be aware of this, but generally speaking, vehicles tend to move a little bit faster than, say, a person walks. Just slightly. And given that, the stakes are much higher in terms of an autonomous vehicle driving on roads at, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour versus a humanoid robot, which is unlikely to fatally collide with other human beings. The stakes for a mistake, the repercussions for a robot bumping into a wall, tripping over, slightly less than the possibility of killing all occupants or others on the road. Therefore, it's possible to push things a little bit further and faster and make more progress, in my opinion. Now, this isn't to dismiss how difficult it will be. It's just to point out something that the author seems to have completely overlooked. If you're going to mention that cars have a lot more constraints versus a humanoid robot in terms of the environment they're moving throughout, which is true, it seems a lack of discussion, at least thus far in the article, about velocity of an autonomous vehicle versus a humanoid robot and the repercussions, the implications of that. To fail to mention this entirely, to me, has cost this author an enormous amount of potential credibility. I really can't take this seriously. If you've not, it's such an obvious point. Maybe it comes later in the article, but geez, that's really something I'd want to have mentioned here, just in fairness. With the full self-driving computer, essentially the inference engine on the car, which will keep evolving, obviously, and Dojo, and all the neural nets recognizing the world, understanding how to navigate through the world, it kind of makes sense to put that onto a humanoid form. It sure fucking does. As I said, Tesla Vision is the foundational building block. That is the brain they have built. You can, in essence, transplant that brain into a humanoid robot and allow it to move through its environment, as we saw more recently at Tesla's AI Day 2022. The humanoid robot, we saw its own point of view, object recognition and detection throughout its environment. Already incredible. Here comes the author clapping back with some sarcasm that certainly has not aged well. Yes, because that's totally how it works. Look, the neural networks in a Tesla, the car, are trained to recognize the world from a car's perspective. Fucking idiot. What a dumbass. They look for things that cars need to understand, and they have absolutely no idea about anything else, which can cause all kinds of problems for them. Same with navigation. Autonomous cars navigate through a world that consists of roads and road-related stuff. You can't just put that onto a humanoid robot and have any sort of expectation that it'll be useful. What an idiot. Unless all you want to do is walk down the middle of the street and obey traffic lights. Now, I have to take a moment to talk about the sheer idiocy. No offense to the author here, but it ain't Elon who has no idea about this task. Let me give you guys an example. Most people watching will have driven a vehicle. It follows that most people watching, in fact every person watching who's ever driven a vehicle at one point drove a vehicle for the very first time. Now, sure, you weren't perfect. You might have stalled the car if it was a manual. You might have been super clumsy, a little bit of a clown, uncomfortable, might have looked like you'd had 10 drinks. But a lot of what you'd picked up, being a human being, with a functional vision system, a camera-based vision system, running into a neural network, you were actually able to translate a lot of that stuff from moving through the real world, like a humanoid robot, and take a lot of that stuff, learning, transplant that brain, so to speak, and you're actually able to do a pretty decent job driving a vehicle for the very first time. It's a two-way street. The same is true for a vehicle. This dimwit does not seem to understand what vision is. What Tesla is solving for, and has solved most of the way for, is vision, perception, planning, and action. That translates. It doesn't matter whether you're driving a vehicle, you're using bipedal motion, doesn't matter whether you put in a fucking snake robot that slithers its way through the world. To not understand this fundamental thing has completely destroyed any credibility this author had left. Bro, are you an idiot? Are you an idiot? Seriously, this is just so fucking dumb. What does this guy think Tesla's vehicles are doing? Oh wait, that would involve a brain. I said, what does he think? And I don't think he has thought. Let me interrupt, though. I just want to emphasize something here. According to Einstein, regarding Tesla's vehicles and the Tesla Vision, the neural networks that they've trained to drive their vehicles almost autonomously on roads, quote, you can't just put that onto a humanoid robot and have any sort of expectation that it'll be useful. Oh, really? Well, this is going to be awkward, but...
You can see the autopilot neural networks running as is, just retrained for the bot directly on that new platform.
So we just saw Tesla's autopilot networks, the stuff that you can't just put into a robot and have it do useful tasks, running on Tesla's humanoid robot about a year after this author self-immolated in this truly embarrassing article that has clearly already not aged well. Oh, and I ain't done with the roasting yet. Say dumb shit, get roasted. It is how I roll. I do want to emphasize, we heard that the autopilot networks were running as is, as in literally just put into the Tesla humanoid robot, which apparently wasn't going to be useful. Yet here we see the Tesla humanoid robot running autopilot networks literally as is from the vehicles in the humanoid robot, recognizing objects within its environment. I don't want to labor the point, but I want to make sure everyone understands. These are the autopilot networks from Tesla's cars, their vehicles that have now been transplanted as is, unchanged, into a humanoid robot. The only difference is they've been trained with new data, obviously, but the networks are the same. The stuff you can't just put in. In fact, you can just put in and here are the results after putting them in no more than around 1 year ago.
That's my watering can.
Yeah, when you see a rendered view, that's the robot. That's the world the robot sees. So it's very clearly identifying objects. Like this is the object it should picking it up. Yeah.
We use the same process as we did for Autopilot to collect data and train neural networks that we then deploy on the robot. That's an example that illustrates the upper body a little bit more. Something that we'll try to nail down in a few months, over the next few months, I would say, to perfection.
All right, I promise. I'm done roasting this guy for now. Let's resume, picking up where we left off. You can't just put that onto a humanoid robot and have any sort of expectation that it'll be useful. Oh, really? P.S. If you feel like you're getting deja vu, you are. I ain't done roasting yet, motherfucker.
We're just moving from a robot on wheels to a robot on legs. So some of the components are pretty similar, and some other require more heavy lifting. So for example, our computer vision neural networks were ported directly from Autopilot to the bot's situation.
This is getting a little bit awkward. I kind of feel like I'm kicking a guy when he's down, but again, say dumb shit, get roasted. It's how I roll. You can't just put that onto a humanoid robot and have any sort of expectation that it'll be useful. Meanwhile, our computer vision neural networks were ported directly, literally ported directly from Autopilot, as we saw on screen, with impressive results.
It's exactly the same occupancy network that we'll talk into a little bit more details later with the Autopilot team that is now running on the bot here in this video.
Oh my, the awkwardness continues. It's exactly the same network that's just been ported to the bot. Exactly the same occupancy network. Not similar, exactly the same. It's almost as if they've put that onto the humanoid robot.
The only thing that changed really is the training data that we had to recollect.
The only thing that changed was the training data, but I thought you couldn't put that onto the humanoid robot. Okay, I'm done. I'm seriously done. I just wanted to point out how fucking idiotic this was at the time and how poorly it has aged. Remember, this is, after all, from an expert. I've written 6,000 plus articles on shit. I'm an expert. Here's my expert opinion, which has not aged well. And this is the point of the entire fucking video. Sometimes the so-called experts can be wrong. In this case, catastrophically, embarrassingly, career-endingly wrong. Just saying. All right. I really am done roasting this guy over this point. Although I just want to make sure everyone understood. This is a critical part of his thesis. Oh, you can't just put that in the bot. Well, what if you can? Because it turns out you can. So let's just recap here. You can't just put that onto a humanoid robot and have any sort of expectation that it'll be useful unless all you want it to do is walk down the middle of the street and obey traffic lights. Which is exactly why the very first time any human ever drives a vehicle, they automatically instantly kill everybody in the car and in fact every other human on the planet in a catastrophic fatal collision. Because nothing that they've learned, nothing their neural networks have been trained on, their vision-based system, perception, planning and action, none of that translates to driving a vehicle or the other way around. So he's absolutely right. Also, the suggestion here seems to be that, quote, AI for general purpose robotics can be solved by just throwing enough computing power at it. Now, this is a really dumb statement and I don't think that suggestion has been made by Tesla. I'm not sure why the author is suggesting otherwise. It takes a lot more than just compute, but compute is an important part of the puzzle, which as far as I'm aware is not even remotely how that works, especially with physical robots. Quote, Tesla is also quite good at sensors and batteries and actuators, so we think we'll probably have a prototype sometime next year. Fancy that? Guess what? It is sometime next year, and guess fucking what? We did see a prototype too, in fact. V1 cobbled together from off-the-shelf parts, and V2 with Tesla's own in-house design actuators. It's plausible that by spending enough money, Tesla could construct a humanoid robot with batteries, actuators, and computers in a similar design to what Musk has described. Can Tesla do it by sometime next year like Musk says they can? Sure, why not? But the hard part is not building the robot. This is true. It's getting that robot to do useful stuff. And I think Musk is way out of his depth here. Now, I admit, V1 of the Tesla humanoid robot wasn't able to do a lot of useful stuff apart from moving objects from here to there. It's still pretty early days. It's definitely not even close to capable of doing anything as useful, for example, as repairing this guy's now destroyed Korea. But maybe one day it'll actually get there. People without a lot of experience in robotics often seem to think that once you've built the robot, you've solved most of the problem. So they focus on mechanical things like actuators and what it'll look like and how much it can lift and whatever. But that's backwards. And the harder problems come after you've got a robot that's mechanically functional, and this is actually true. The physical form, the mechanics, that's the easy stuff. The brain is what matters. At least we agree on this point. But unfortunately, Einstein is unaware that Tesla's already built most of a brain in their vehicles, which they've now transplanted successfully into the humanoid robot, which Einstein here said was not possible. But it was. And I don't know, maybe Tesla could do this guy a solid and offer him a transplant too. Might help with his future articles. At least avoiding being roasted for writing them. Quote, "It's intended to navigate through a world built for humans. This is one of the few good reasons to make a humanoid robot, and I'm not even sure that by itself it's a good enough reason to do so. But in any case, the word intended is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. The implications of a world built for humans includes an almost infinite variety of different environments, full of all kinds of robot-unfriendly things, not to mention the safety aspects of an inherently unstable 125-pound robot." So I think what he's trying to say is the world is complicated and it's going to be hard, and I totally agree with those points. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on the current state of the art in humanoid robotics. And if you visit this site regularly, you probably do too. Companies like Boston Dynamics and Agility Robotics have been working on robots that, by the way, remember the earlier point? The physical form is the easy part, the brain's the hard part. Watch this self-immolation. It's just delicious. Companies like Boston Dynamics and Agility Robotics have been working on robots that can navigate through human environments for literally decades. And it's still a super hard problem. Why? Because they haven't figured out the brain, the hard part. I don't know why Musk thinks that he can suddenly do better. For the record, I don't think Musk's thinking suddenly. I think he's thinking, this is a multi-decade opportunity. Let's start now while there is a gigantic first mover advantage. Here's an interesting tweet. For anyone wondering why I tweeted, Elon Musk has no idea what getting humanoid robots to do useful stuff actually involves. Here's why. Quoting Elon Musk, who said, "We have almost all the pieces needed for human robotics. Since we already make robots on wheels." Of course, he was referring to the brain, electric motors, actuators, and sensors. These really are all the necessary pieces of the puzzle. This is one of those really awkward moments where you self-immolate. What Elon Musk has said is absolutely accurate and true. It's completely reasonable. He is right. Tesla does have almost all the pieces needed for humanoid robots. Yet Einstein here in the tweet thinks that Musk is wrong in stating that Tesla has almost all the pieces needed for humanoid robots. The human-level hands that you see annotated in Musk's presentation above are a good example of why I think Musk doesn't really grasp, haha, pun intended, I'm sure. Maybe not. I don't know if he's that sharp. How much work this robot is going to be. Now, it's true, it will be work. That is correct. It's also got nothing to do with anything. All Tesla does is work. What does human-level hands even mean? If we're talking about five-fingered hands with human-equivalent sensing and dexterity, those do exist, sort of. Although they're generally fragile and expensive. Oh god, this is fucking hilarious, dude. It would take an enormous engineering effort to make hands like... So, has Tesla ever engaged in any enormous engineering efforts? Oh, of course they haven't. Has SpaceX? No, of course they haven't. Has anything Elon's ever been involved with had any enormous engineering efforts at all? Absolutely not. Great point, Einstein. I just can't argue with that one. It would take an enormous engineering effort to make hands like that into something practical, just from a hardware perspective, which is why nobody has bothered. Interesting. Nobody's bothered to do this yet. Why? Because it takes enormous engineering effort. Kind of like reusable rockets and electric vehicles. This is just so fucking ironic. Oh, my man. I feel bad for this guy. I mean, I do. The internet never forgets. You share your opinions. You get roasted because you've made a clown of yourself. You can't take it back. You just have to deal with the roasting. Most robots use much simpler, much more robust 2 or 3 finger grippers instead. Could Tesla solve this problem? I have no doubt they could, given enough time and money. But they've also got every other part of the robot to deal with. And even if you can make the hardware robust enough to be useful, you've still got to come up with all the software to make it work. Going back to the old autopilot networks, they're a decent bit of the way there already. Again, we're talking about huge problems within huge problems at a scale that it seems like Musk hasn't considered. I just can't. Bro, the whole reason that Tesla's doing the humanoid robot is because they see the opportunity and they understand the scale. That's why they're starting now. And eliminate dangerous, repetitive, and boring tasks. Great. That is what robots should be doing. But as Musk himself knows, it's easier to say that robots will eliminate dangerous, repetitive, and boring tasks, and much more difficult to actually get them to do it. Duh. No one's disagreeing that it's easier to say something can be done and should be done than actually doing the thing that should be done. Not because the robots aren't capable, but because humans are far more capable. We set a very high bar for performance and versatility in ways that aren't always obvious. This is very true. And even when they are obvious, robots may not be able to replicate them effectively. Now, over the short term, this will be true, but eventually it is inevitable. Humanoid robots will eventually become as capable and then more capable than any human on the planet. It's just a matter of time. Quote, things I think that are hard about having a really useful humanoid robot are, can it navigate through the world without being explicitly trained, without explicit line-by-line instructions? Can you talk to it and say, please pick up that bolt and attach it to the car with that wrench? Please go to the store and get me the following groceries. That kind of thing. The author continues, robots can already navigate through the world without explicit line-by-line instructions when they have a pretty good idea of what the world consists of. If the world is roads or my apartment or this specific shopping mall, that's probably a 95% plus solved problem. Pre-programming a one-trick pony is not a generalized solution. You've got 0% of the problem solved. If your goal is a generalized, generally intelligent, generally capable humanoid robot. Keeping in mind that the last 5% gets ridiculously complicated, sure does. But if you start talking about, quote, my apartment plus any nearby grocery store along with everything in between my apartment and that grocery store, that's a whole lot of not necessarily well-structured or predictable space. It sure is. That's why a generalized solution is what's necessary, which is what Tesla has and continues to develop, which is what also makes them completely distinct from everyone else attempting to solve any robotics problems. Boston Dynamics, for example, are solving narrow problems. Tesla's going for broad and generalized. And part of that challenge is just physically moving through those spaces. Are there stairs, heavy doors, crosswalks, lots of people? These are all complicated enough environments for those small-wheeled sidewalk delivery robots with humans in the loop. Never mind a hypothetical, fully autonomous bipedal humanoid that is also carrying objects. Again, this is true. It's a very complicated problem. I don't argue that point. And going into a crowded grocery store and picking up things off shelves and putting them into a basket or cart that then has to be pushed safely, these are cutting-edge unsolved... God damn it, dude. That's the whole point. They are cutting-edge unsolved robotics problems. That's why Tesla's trying to solve them. And we've barely seen this kind of thing happen with industrial arms on wheeled bases, even in a research context. Heck, even pick up that bolt is not an easy thing for a robot to do right now if it wasn't specifically designed for that task. Again, this is true. That's why Tesla's doing it now. It's like saying, electric vehicles don't have enough range, they don't have enough power, enough acceleration. Electric vehicles aren't compelling today, said everyone back in 2010. Or 2005, or 2000. This, I think, will be quite profound because what is the economy? At the foundation, it is labour. So, what happens when there is no shortage of labour? This is why I think long-term there will need to be universal basic income, but not right now because this robot doesn't work. Economics is well beyond my area of expertise, but as Musk says, until the robot works, this is all moot. It is possible, even likely, that Tesla will build some sort of Tesla bot by sometime next year. They sure did, as Musk says. I think that it won't look all that much like the concept images in the presentation. Props, he was right, not close at all. Off-the-shelf components for version 0.42, as I've dubbed it. 0.69 of the Tesla humanoid bot, a little bit chunkier. But of course, that is because we're using in-house designed early versions of Tesla's actuators and so on. Over time, I think the form factor of Tesla's humanoid robot will get a lot closer to the original concept. It will just take time. I think that it'll be able to stand up and perhaps walk. Well, he was correct on both counts. Maybe withstand a shove or two and do some basic object recognition and grasping. Correct? This happened. And I think that after that, progress will be slow. Oh, really? I don't think Tesla will fucking idiot, bro. I'm so rude. I'm not even going to apologize. It's just my real reaction as I read this. I don't think Tesla will catch up with Boston Dynamics or Agility Robotics. Bro, they're already miles ahead. Remember, it's the brain that counts. Tesla's already light years ahead, as is the case with their autonomous software, despite the fact that some people see a robo-taxi in Phoenix, Arizona with LiDAR and HD pre-mapping. Oh my god, they're ahead of Tesla. They're not, but it might look like that if you don't actually understand what you're talking about. Same is true of Tesla's robot, which is why I'm so excited and keep making videos about this fucking thing. It's the brain that matters, and that's the thing that Tesla's mostly solved. Everything else, walk in the fucking park by comparison. Boston Dynamics and Agility robots are literally walking in the park, and that's it. The Tesla robot will be designing, building, landscaping, and maintaining the park. Maybe they'll end up with the equivalent of Asimo, with a PR tool that can do impressive demos, but is ultimately not all that useful. Part of what bothers me so much, why does anything bother you about this, dude? You're not getting emotionally invested in this, are you? And that might explain a few things. Part of what bothers me so much about all this is how Musk's vision for the Tesla bot implies that he's going to just casually leapfrog. Oh my god, dude. that he's going to just casually leapfrog all of the roboticists who have been working toward useful humanoids for decades. Spoiler alert, that is exactly what's going on. So credit to the author here. He recognized Tesla's perspective. He recognized Musk's perspective. He just didn't think it was actually going to play out. But I'm telling you, brother, it already has played out. You just can't see it yet. Just like Tesla's autonomous efforts, it won't be obvious to everyone for a couple more years. Of course, it's not like we've ever seen any examples of any other engineering efforts under Elon Musk leapfrog any other competitors, any other technological progress. It's not like SpaceX leapfrogged the rest of the space industry with their reusable rockets. It's not like Tesla leapfrogged the entire automotive industry with their electric vehicles. So yeah, good point, man. You got me there. Musk assumes that he will be able to wander into humanoid robot development and do what nobody else has yet been able to do. Build a useful general purpose humanoid. This is absolutely true. I doubt Musk intended it this way, but I feel like he's backhandedly suggesting that the challenges with humanoids aren't actually that hard. Oh, I see. The thing that bothers me, see the start of this paragraph, part of what bothers me so much, part of what makes me so butthurt, is this arrogant Elon Musk asshole thinks he's smarter than me. I'm just going to make an embarrassment of what just about everyone in this entire industry has been doing for decades. Now, that's pretty much how things are going to play out. Again, it's because Tesla's got the brain. People aren't understanding that the brain is what really matters. The form factor, the body, whatever. It's not really what matters. It's not the difficult challenge. And that if other people were cleverer or worked harder or threw more money at the problem, then we would have had general purpose humanoids already. Author is way off the fucking point here. The fundamental misunderstanding, he doesn't understand that Tesla's built the fucking brain. And no one else has built the brain. It's not Elon going, oh, you guys are dumb. Robots are easy. I'm going to do it from scratch. It's Elon going, fuck, hang on. This Tesla vision thing we've been working on for the better part of the last half decade or so has actually become the foundational building block of an intelligent, sentient being. We've almost solved vision. We can put this in a humanoid robot and be years, potentially decades ahead of anyone else. Let's do that. I think he's wrong, but if Tesla ends up investing time and money into solving some really hard robotics problems, perhaps they'll have some success that will help move the entire field forward, and I'd call that a win. Well, it looks like a win will certainly be called. Now, I do want to be clear, just for the record, guys. I've roasted the absolute flying fuck out of this guy, but it's not personal. I don't know him. I'm sure he's a nice dude, but he said some dumb shit, and I'm roasting the dumb shit that this guy said, not the guy who said the dumb shit. Just the dumb shit the guy said. Important distinction. And as I said earlier in this video, the entire point, this is what an expert being wrong looks like. You can't just put that in the... Well, actually, it turns out you can just put that. The entire thesis, he was completely wrong about the most fundamental, important part of his thesis, that Tesla had nothing of value that they could take from their autonomous software to give them a head start on a general purpose, intelligent humanoid robot. Just remember, when everyone, especially the so-called experts, thinks A, and what actually plays out is B, gigantic gap is opportunity. And I personally believe that Tesla's humanoid robot will be the single most misunderstood product in the company's history. After all, the Tesla bot is the final product. And the greater the misunderstanding, the greater the potential opportunity for those who really know what's up. Just a little food for thought. And if you'd like more content, and I mean almost 180 exclusive videos and my Tesla price targets, plus optional access to my Tesla valuation model, you know where to find it by now. You can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. And just a quick note on Tesla bot in my valuation model. I haven't actually needed to change my estimates in terms of the price or the first production of Tesla bot since AI Day 2022, where Elon Musk stated on the record he believes 3 to 5 years for the first Tesla bot deliveries and around a $20,000 selling price. Why? I just guessed really good ahead of time. I'm so lucky.